One moment the sky is calm, the world's serene. The next, chaos erupts. A towering tornado tears through a Florida beach town, flipping cars and snapping trees. Half a world away, molten lava spews from the earth, swallowing homes in Hawaii, while a fire tornado in Australia spins into the sky, scorching everything in its path. These aren't scenes from a disaster movie. They're real events, all caught on camera. If nature can be this powerful and unpredictable, how would you feel standing in its path? The tornado at Fort Walton Beach, Florida. Fort Walton Beach, Florida, is the kind of place you imagine when you think of a peaceful seaside getaway. Nestled along the Gulf Coast, it's known for its sparkling waters, year-round fishing, and relaxed resort vibe. It's the perfect spot to kick back, soak up the sun, and forget about the rest of the world. But in April 2018, this serene vacation destination became the scene of a dramatic natural event that no one there will ever forget. On a calm spring day, everything changed in an instant. A waterspout formed over the ocean and quickly turned into a ferocious tornado. Dave Perkins, a local resident, caught the whole thing on camera from his balcony. While his wife begged him to take cover, Dave kept filming as the tornado barreled toward their neighborhood. The footage is gripping, capturing the sheer speed and unpredictability of the storm as it snapped trees, flipped over cars, and sent debris flying. The tornado didn't stop there. It moved towards City Hall with enough power to shove a parked truck out of its spot, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Despite the chaos, there's a sense of relief in knowing that no one was hurt. Homes and property can be rebuilt, but lives were spared that day.
Spout. This is a tornado that happened to go over the water. Here it is going over Okaloosa Island. This one has been projected to be an EF1, winds around 105 miles per hour. Typical waterspout has winds much lower than that. Check out as it re-hits right there. You can see a roof getting blown off a home, and then now it's going to work its way here across the sound there, Santa Rosa Sound, and it's spinning debris through the funnel the whole time. It's also, of course, picking up the water here off the sound.
Tornado and hailstorm in Saugerties, New York. Saugerties, New York is the kind of place people go to escape the noise of the world. Nestled in the Hudson Valley, it's a quiet, picturesque town with historic charm, small businesses, and a laid-back atmosphere. It's the perfect spot for anyone seeking peace and relaxation. But in May 2018, this tranquil town faced a storm so powerful, it would leave its mark on both the landscape and the people. What started as an ordinary day ended in chaos, with homes darkened and residents shaken. The day began uneventfully until a tornado warning pinged on residents' phones. For most, such a warning is a cue to stay inside and wait it out. But for one curious family, it was an opportunity to see nature's power up close. They stepped outside, camera in hand, unaware they were about to witness something extraordinary. The air was still, the sky ominous but calm, and then everything changed in an instant. An EF1 tornado touched down, bringing winds that howled at speeds of up to 90 miles per hour. Trees bent and swayed like blades of grass, their branches snapping under the force. Trash cans, lawn furniture, and anything not bolted down were lifted and flung through the air. The storm seemed to have a mind of its own, lashing out with unrelenting fury. If the tornado wasn't enough, hail the size of apricots began to fall, hammering rooftops and covering the ground in jagged shards of ice. Each strike sounded like a cannonball hitting the earth, and the sheer size of the hailstones turned the storm into a relentless battering ram. Lightning lit up the sky, with over 1,000 strikes recorded at the peak of the storm. The sound of crackling thunder, pounding winds, and shattering ice created an atmosphere that felt more like a disaster movie than real life. Fire tornado on Kangaroo Island, Australia. Kangaroo Island is often called a little slice of paradise. Tucked away off the coast of southern Australia, it's a sanctuary for wildlife, and a peaceful escape from the bustle of the mainland. With its pristine beaches, lush greenery, and unique animals like kangaroos, koalas, and little penguins, it's hard to imagine such a tranquil place becoming a scene of devastation. But during the brush fire season of 2019 to 2020, that's exactly what happened. The fires that swept across Kangaroo Island were unlike anything the island had seen before. They burned with such intensity that they didn't just scorch the land, they created something terrifying. A fire tornado. This wasn't just a regular whirlwind. The intense heat and flames created a spinning vortex of fire, tearing through everything in its path. Firefighters who had come to battle the blaze could only watch as the fire tornado grew stronger and hotter, forcing them to retreat to their trucks for safety. For the island's wildlife, the impact was heartbreaking. Kangaroo Island was home to a thriving population of koalas, an estimated 48,000 of them. By the time the fires were finally extinguished, only about 8,500 were left. The sight of charred forests and ash-covered ground where life once flourished was a painful reminder of how fragile ecosystems can be in the face of such disasters. The aftermath of the fires left scars not just on the landscape but on the people who call Kangaroo Island home. For them, it wasn't just the loss of property or livelihoods, it was the loss of a part of their identity. Even today, the recovery process continues, with efforts focused on regrowing the forests and supporting the wildlife that survived. Hailstorm at Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, Colorado. Cheyenne Mountain Zoo in Colorado Springs is usually a place of wonder and joy, where families come to see majestic tigers, playful giraffes, and other incredible animals. But on an afternoon in August 2018, a normal day at the zoo turned into a scene of chaos and destruction when the skies unleashed one of the most extreme hailstorms the area had ever seen. It started as a typical summer day, with visitors strolling through the zoo and kids marveling at the animals. But the mood shifted as the clouds darkened, and suddenly, hailstones the size of softballs began to fall from the sky. These weren't just your everyday hailstones. These were massive chunks of ice smashing into cars, roofs, and even the ground with a force that could easily cause serious damage. People ran for cover wherever they could find it, huddling under shelters or inside buildings as the storm raged on. The aftermath was devastating. Around 300 cars parked at the zoo were left undrivable, their windshields shattered and bodies dented beyond recognition. For some visitors, the storm turned their family outing into a nightmare. 14 people were injured badly enough to require hospital treatment, though thankfully no human lives were lost. The animals weren't as fortunate. Among the zoo's residents, Daisy the duck and Matsawari the vulture tragically lost their lives in the storm. The staff worked tirelessly to care for the injured animals and assess the damage, but the loss was deeply felt by everyone involved. Visitors who had been at the zoo captured the entire event on their phones, showing the sheer power of the storm and the destruction it left behind. Watching the footage, it's hard to believe how quickly the serene atmosphere of the zoo was transformed into something so chaotic and terrifying.
Under a severe thunderstorm warning. Earlier, we were under a tornado warning that was out on the Eastern Plains. That has since expired.
And new video tonight at 10 of that severe hailstorm in Colorado Springs this afternoon. We're talking softball-sized hail.
Wow, the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo just got pummeled. Now, this is also new video, 10 o'clock, of the hail hitting the grizzly bear exhibit there. The grizzlies are fine, don't worry, but 14 people at the zoo were injured. Some of the animals didn't survive the storm either.
Earthquake in Kathmandu, Nepal. Kathmandu, Nepal is a city rich in history and culture, with ancient temples, bustling markets, and a vibrant community that draws people from all over the world. But on April 25th, 2015, the city became the epicenter of one of the most devastating earthquakes in modern history. The 7.8 magnitude quake struck in the early afternoon, turning a normal day into a nightmare for millions. The earthquake's power was unimaginable. Buildings that had stood for centuries crumbled in seconds, sending massive clouds of dust into the air. Glass shattered, roads cracked open, and the city was thrown into chaos. Footage from that day shows the raw terror of people running for their lives as structures collapsed around them. The sound of falling debris and panicked cries filled the air, capturing the sheer helplessness of the moment. The quake wasn't just limited to Kathmandu. It triggered landslides and avalanches in the surrounding areas, including Mount Everest, where climbers were caught in deadly ice and snowslides. Entire villages were wiped out in rural regions, where the fragile infrastructure couldn't withstand the tremors. The aftermath was heartbreaking. Nearly 9,000 people lost their lives, and millions more were affected. Homes, schools, and hospitals were reduced to rubble, leaving countless families without shelter or basic necessities. Aftershocks continued to rattle the region, some so strong they felt like earthquakes themselves, prolonging the fear and uncertainty. Rebuilding after such a disaster is a monumental task. Even years later, many in Nepal are still recovering. The earthquake didn't just destroy buildings, it took away livelihoods and left emotional scars that will take a long time to heal. Yet amidst the devastation, there were countless acts of bravery and kindness, as neighbors helped each other and the international community stepped in to provide aid.
In 2015, In Nepal, nearly 9,000 people died and more than 22,000 were injured when a 7.8 magnitude quake struck Nepal, destroying more than 500,000 homes. For more on this, we're now being joined by our correspondent Saloni Murarka, live from Kathmandu. Saloni, thank you so much for joining us. What can you tell us about the situation at the moment?
Well, exactly, we know that especially in Kathmandu, the capital, strong tremors were felt, which prompted all the people to get out of their houses, and the earthquake struck.
Landslide in Himachal Pradesh, India. Himachal Pradesh, with its breathtaking mountains and lush greenery, is a favorite destination for nature lovers. But beneath its beauty lies a constant danger. The region is highly prone to landslides, and in early September 2018, this danger became all too real when a massive landslide occurred along National Highway 5. The day started like any other, with locals and travelers going about their routines. Heavy rains in the days leading up to the event had made the mountainside unstable, and people who lived nearby knew what was coming. Spectators gathered cautiously at a distance, watching as small rocks and dirt began to tumble down the slope. It was almost like nature was giving a warning. Then in a matter of seconds, the entire mountainside gave way. The video footage captured during the incident is both mesmerizing and terrifying. At first, you see only a trickle of soil and stones, but it quickly builds into a roaring cascade of rock, dirt, and debris. The sheer force of the collapse sends plumes of dust into the air, and the sound of the landslide echoes through the valley. People who were standing closer than they should have been scramble to safety, while others can only watch in stunned silence. Miraculously, no one was hurt, and vehicles in the path of the landslide narrowly escaped being crushed. The road, however, was completely buried, cutting off a major route and leaving travelers stranded for hours as cleanup crews worked to clear the debris.
Several houses in the Kalau district of Himachal Pradesh collapsed. Landslide caused by rain hit mountainous area in the morning.
Tornado outbreak in Jiangsu Province, China. In July 2021, the bustling city of Shenshan in Jiangsu Province, China, faced a disaster that would leave its streets unrecognizable. A series of tornadoes swept through the region, with one particularly violent tornado tearing through the heart of the city. In a place where life was usually busy and orderly, chaos took over as the storm unleashed its fury. Footage from that day captures the scale of destruction. The tornado ripped homes apart, leaving piles of rubble where sturdy buildings once stood. Cars were tossed around like toys, flipped onto their roofs, or crushed beyond recognition. The industrial areas, usually a hub of activity, were left in ruins. Massive cranes collapsed under the tornado's force, and entire streets were buried under layers of debris. Trees that had lined the streets were uprooted or snapped like twigs, adding to the chaotic landscape. The sound of the storm was just as haunting as the visuals. The wind roared like a freight train, and the air was filled with the crash of debris slamming into buildings and vehicles. People who managed to film the storm from a distance captured not just the visuals, but the raw emotion of the moment: fear, disbelief, and helplessness. When the tornado passed, it left behind a city in shock. The destruction was immense, and the toll on the community was severe. While the exact number of injuries wasn't immediately clear, reports confirmed that many were hurt. Families were displaced, businesses were destroyed, and recovery efforts faced an uphill battle in the days that followed. Volcanic eruption of Mount Kilauea, Hawaii. In May 2018, Mount Kilauea on Hawaii's Big Island reminded everyone why it's one of the most active volcanoes in the world. What started as minor rumblings quickly turned into a dramatic eruption that left parts of the island looking like an apocalyptic landscape. For weeks, molten lava spewed hundreds of feet into the air, creating fiery fountains visible from miles away. The eruption was relentless. Massive fissures opened in residential neighborhoods, splitting roads and sending rivers of lava flowing through streets, backyards, and forests. Residents watched in horror as the glowing red streams swallowed everything in their path. Homes, cars, and entire patches of land disappeared under the molten rock. Some locals captured the destruction on video, showing how fast the lava moved and the terrifying power it carried. One moment, a house stood tall. The next, it was engulfed in flames and reduced to a smoldering pile of ash. Adding to the danger were the toxic sulfur dioxide gases released during the eruption. These gases are invisible but deadly, and residents in the affected areas had to evacuate to escape the fumes. Emergency responders worked tirelessly to monitor air quality and guide people to safety, ensuring the gas didn't claim any lives. Despite the destruction, there was a strange beauty in the eruption. The sight of lava glowing against the night sky, the constant roar of the eruption, and the stark contrast between fiery destruction and the lush greenery of Hawaii were unforgettable. It was a reminder of nature's dual power to create and destroy. By the time the eruption subsided, dozens of homes and structures were gone, and over 117 acres of land were scorched. Yet amidst all this destruction, there was a silver lining. No lives were lost. The community's quick response and the tireless efforts of first responders ensured that while the island changed forever, its people were safe to rebuild and carry on. Mount Kilauea's eruption was a dramatic chapter in Hawaii's history, one that showcased both the island's resilience and the unstoppable force of its natural world.
A massive eruption spewing scorching lava from Hawaii's second largest volcano. The glowing goo rippling across a crater at the top of Kilauea on Hawaii's Big Island, where fountains are shooting lava over 200 feet high, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. As high as 8,000 feet in the sky. It all started Monday after seismic activity in the early morning hours. The USGS's Hawaiian Volcano Observatory quickly raising the alert levels from advisory to a warning.
Flooding of the Dipka coal mine, India. In September 2019, the Dipka coal mine in India's Chhattisgarh state became the unexpected site of a dramatic natural event. The mine, one of India's largest open-pit coal operations, was brought to a complete standstill when the nearby Liligar River suddenly changed course and flooded the site. What followed was a surreal scene that left workers and onlookers in awe of nature's unstoppable power. The Dipka mine is a vast open pit, a massive scar on the earth created by years of extracting coal. On most days, it's a hive of activity, with heavy machinery working around the clock to meet the country's energy needs. But the steady rains that had been falling for weeks swelled the Liligar River beyond its usual boundaries. Without warning, the river breached its banks, and its waters began pouring into the mine. The sight was almost cinematic, an enormous pit designed to carve out the earth, suddenly being reclaimed by it. Videos captured by miners and locals show the eerie moment the water surged into the pit. The once bustling mine was transformed into a massive, muddy lake. Trucks, excavators, and other machinery were abandoned as workers evacuated to safety, watching from higher ground as the floodwaters engulfed everything below. It was a strangely cathartic sight, as though the land was reclaiming what had been taken from it. Despite the scale of the disaster, there was an immense sense of relief that no one was hurt. The evacuation was swift and efficient, ensuring that every worker made it out in time. However, the economic impact was significant. The Deepka mine produces more than 35 million tons of coal annually, and the flooding disrupted operations for weeks. Some areas of the mine remain submerged under 15 meters of water, long after the river returned to its usual course.
Shifting focus to India, where at least several miners are trapped inside a coal mine in the remote area of northeastern Indian state of Assam. Around 27 workers were reportedly inside the mine when water flooded its shaft. There's no clarity on how much water seeped into the mine, but an initial police report indicates at least 7 workers have been trapped inside the pit since morning.
Eruption of Mount Semeru, Indonesia. Mount Semeru, the highest volcano on Java Island in Indonesia, has long been a powerful symbol of nature's beauty and strength. Known locally as Mahameru, or the Great Mountain, it is both a sacred site and a constant presence for those living in its shadow. But in December 2021, this majestic volcano showed its most destructive side in an eruption that devastated nearby communities. On December 4th, Mount Semeru erupted with violent force, sending a towering column of volcanic ash into the sky. The ash cloud covered villages in a thick, suffocating blanket, transforming the landscape into what looked like a desolate wasteland. Drone footage from the area captured scenes that were hard to believe. Houses buried up to their rooftops in ash, roads disappearing under gray debris, and trees stripped bare, standing like ghostly skeletons against the smoky horizon. The once green fields and vibrant villages had been replaced by a scene that looked more like another planet. For the people living near Semeru, the eruption was terrifying. Many had little time to react as lava and pyroclastic flows, superheated clouds of gas, ash, and debris raced down the slopes at incredible speeds. Families fled their homes, leaving behind everything they couldn't carry. Despite the efforts of local authorities and rescue teams, the eruption claimed lives and left hundreds displaced, their homes and livelihoods reduced to ash. Tragically, the December 4th eruption wasn't the only one that year. Semeru erupted again just 2 days later, on December 6th, compounding the devastation. Each eruption brought new challenges for rescue and recovery efforts. Entire communities were left to grapple with the loss of loved ones and the daunting task of rebuilding their lives. In the aftermath, aid poured in from across Indonesia and beyond. Volunteers and organizations worked tirelessly to provide food, shelter, and medical care for those affected. Even so, the scars left by the eruption, both physical and emotional, will take years to heal. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.